Hey beauty, in this episode I am talking about 3 super simple things that you can do to improve your health. You probably already know all of these things, but you might need a reminder and or you might not know why they're so important. I feel like sometimes we just need to go back to the basics. So that's what we're going to do today. Before I get into the show, I just want to remind you that I am speaking at a Food Freedom Summit. So if you're interested in a free Food Freedom Summit, we are going to help you learn how to beat binge eating, emotional eating, sugar addiction, and yo-yo dieting through the truth of Jesus Christ. If that is of interest to you, it is a free summit. All you have to do is register. Go to www.catsharp.com/summitalexandra. I will put a link in the show notes. With all that being said, let's get into the show. Welcome to Her Holistic Healing. Do you want more energy and less anxiety so that you can do all the things? Are you searching for meal ideas, essential oils, and other holistic treatments? Do you wish you could know which direction to take with your health so that you could finally feel better? Hey, I'm Alexandra. I love Jesus. I'm a wife, mom of 3, and registered nurse with years of experience in clinical research. I also wanted more energy so that I could have more fun and keep up with my growing child. I too was confused about all the different diet and treatment options. I too wanted to wake up every day and feel good, but I felt anxious because I couldn't solve the mystery of my health. Until God showed me that He is the source of true healing. In this podcast, you will learn holistic treatments and Bible truths that will lead you to the peace, joy, and freedom that you have been hoping for. So what do you say we take a break from the mind-numbing humdrum busyness? Let's rest and let God be our healer and helper. I was talking to another mom about homeschooling. I currently homeschool my kids, and we were talking about how sometimes it's so hard to know if we're teaching our kids enough or if we've picked the right curriculum. She had been homeschooling for a while, and she said to me, you really just have to focus on the most important thing. The most important thing is that you teach your child about the Word of God. You teach your child about God every day. You read the Bible every day. And I completely agree with her. It's not so important to me that my kids are really good at math or really good at reading or writing. At the end of the day, I want them to love God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. I want them to love others. I want to be living for God. That is the most important thing. When it comes to our health, I feel like sometimes we just forget certain things that are super important for our health. So I just wanted to give you 3 things to think about. You don't have to work on all of these things, but I want you to perhaps choose at least one of them. And if you're already doing these things, then that's awesome. This episode will pretty much reinforce why these things are so important and will encourage you to keep doing them. Before I get into the 3 things, I was thinking about Moses in the Bible, Exodus 3 and 4. In Exodus 3, God appears to Moses in a burning bush, and he tells Moses to go talk to Pharaoh so that Pharaoh will let the Israelites go. Moses has all these excuses and all these questions for God. In Exodus chapter 4, God says to Moses, "What's in your hand?" There's a staff in Moses' hand. God says to throw it on the ground, and the staff turns into a serpent. God also shows him other couple signs, including turning the Nile into blood. When I think about this story, I think about how God uses very simple things for His purpose. Moses had a staff in his hand, and God performs miracles with just the staff in Moses' hand. When I think about health and our life in general, I feel like oftentimes God just wants us to work with what we have. I went through this season with my health where I was trying all these different supplements and it got pretty expensive. Thankfully, I realized that I didn't really need all those supplements. Some were helping and some were probably making my symptoms worse. And it's not like I'm against supplements right now. I do take some supplements now, but I've probably said this before. I really feel like God is showing me that the biblical principles in the Bible are what He really wants us to focus on. And I believe that when we focus on our relationship with Him, our spiritual life, we walk with Him, we ask Him for wisdom, that's when we're going to find true healing. And sometimes the supplements will help us, but there are some times where we're just neglecting just simple principles that can make us feel better. So with that being said, here are 3 very simple things that we can do if we want to feel better and improve our health. Number 1, sleep more. When I was in high school and college, a lot of times I would only get 4 hours of sleep every night. And of course, I was moody and not super productive. I would procrastinate a lot. I just had some very unhealthy habits. Thankfully, when I got older, I started sleeping more. I started aiming for 6 to 7 hours of sleep per night. But really, I discovered that that's really not enough for me. So I started just recently aiming for 8 hours a night. And I think 8 or 9 hours is really good for me. For you, it might be different. I used to not want to sleep because I felt like it was kind of a waste of time and I'd rather be super productive and not sleep as much. But really, I'm less productive when I don't sleep as much. I'm moody. I kind of feel like I'm getting more done now with more sleep, which is really cool. If we're not getting enough sleep, that can most definitely lead to chronic symptoms. It can decrease our lifespans. It can lead to cancer or just so many other things like weight gain. It can affect our health in huge ways. If we look at the 10 Commandments, God wanted us to keep a Sabbath. I really think that He thinks that rest is super important. So I really feel like we should be prioritizing rest and sleep. Sleep could really be the ticket to you getting better. If you have trouble sleeping, I really encourage you to, first of all, pray about it. When I was a kid, even as young as, I don't know, maybe 3rd grade or even younger, I was just very fearful. I was thinking all the time, thinking about bad things that could happen. I was fearful of things. And so I had a lot of trouble sleeping. But I prayed about it for, I don't know, maybe several months. I prayed every night that God would help me sleep. And thankfully, I praise God for this. I don't have trouble sleeping. I haven't had trouble sleeping since I was super young. So I really encourage you to, first of all, pray and ask God to help you sleep better if you have trouble sleeping. You could also turn off all screens and electronics 2 hours before you go to sleep every night. That will help you sleep. Also, you could turn off the Wi-Fi at night because those frequencies can interfere with your sleep. You could put your phone on airplane mode or put your phone in a different room because that can affect your sleep. You could write down your to-do list and or your thoughts in a journal so that your mind is not thinking about everything that you need to do or things that you're worried about. Exercise also helps you to sleep better at night. Try to make sure that you're in a dark environment when you're trying to sleep, even before you go to sleep. You really want to train your mind. You want to train your body and your mind to start winding down when it's time to go to bed. So turn off the lights. Try not to sleep with the TV on. If you have a sleep mask, you can use a sleep mask. You could also try CBD oil. You can go to episode 40 if you're interested in that to find out more. You could try lavender oil. You could go to episode 13 if you're interested in that. You could try different teas like chamomile. I love this tea that has elderberry and lemon balm, ashwagandha. It helps me relax. You can go to episode 44 to learn more about that. Some people take magnesium citrate, which helps them sleep, and it's also great for constipation and other things. So that's the first very simple thing that you can do for your health. The second one is just movement. You don't have to do CrossFit. You don't have to necessarily lift really heavy weights. Just move your body. Go for a walk outside. You can do some YouTube videos. You can do some stretching. I think I mentioned this before, but when I was pregnant, I had really bad morning sickness with all of my kids, and with the third kid, even with the second kid, I don't remember, but when I went for walks, that was really the only thing that helped with the nausea, the walking. And also I did prenatal yoga, which really helped. I don't recommend yoga for the spiritual side, but just the stretching and the moving your body in different positions, it really helps with circulation. So that's really what I would recommend. If you don't move regularly, try to do that as much as possible. I know that it can be difficult if you have some chronic symptoms, your mobility may be limited. So just do whatever you can. And there's a ton of YouTube videos. What I do is I just look for low impact videos, fun dancing videos. Ever since I had my third child, I still have diastasis recti and pelvic floor issues, which I'm planning to work on. But ever since I had my third kid, my body hasn't been the same. So I don't do like a ton of heavy lifting, but hopefully when I start working more on that, I can do more lifting and things like that. If you think you might have pelvic floor issues, if you want to learn more about that, go to episode 42. Lastly, number three, the third thing that you can do for your health, a very simple thing, is to just go outside. I've mentioned this in another episode, but if you really think about that, we were made from mud. If you go to Genesis, you'll see that we were made from the mud. We get our oxygen from the plants. There's this oxygen carbon dioxide exchange with the plants. We have this connection with the earth. When we go outside, we get vitamin D from the sun. I truly believe that being outside in nature is just so good for our health. Also, if you're up for it, it's at the time of this recording, it's May, so hopefully it's warm where you are. You can go barefoot. This is called grounding or earthing. If you haven't heard about this before, you probably think it's strange, but it's not some weird thing. There's been scientific studies. You can go to episode 2 to find out more. Grounding and earthing is really good for inflammation and so many other things. So that's something I would recommend as well. Vitamin D, which we can get from the sun, is important for so many things. It can protect against cancer. It enhances our immune system. It's good for our learning and memory, our mood. Vitamin D is just so important for our health. Some people recommend that you get about 10 to 15 minutes of direct sunlight every day without wearing sunscreen. This is if you are fair to medium. If your skin tone is fair or medium, this is what they recommend. If you have darker skin, you will probably need more time. They recommend about 40 minutes every day. Try to go out before 10 o'clock or when the sun is not so strong. Try to go out during those times so you don't get burned. If your vitamin D level is too low, your practitioner would probably recommend you supplementing with vitamin D. Some people say that you should get your vitamin D levels tested twice a year. Whether or not you choose to do it twice a year, vitamin D is so important for your health. And like I said, a good way to get your vitamin D is to spend some time outside in the sun. So to recap, 3 very simple things that pretty much all of us can do for our health is: number 1, get enough sleep. Number 2, move as much as possible. Number 3, go outside to get some vitamin D and oxygen. If you want, you can take off your shoes and do some grounding. I'm so glad that you took the time to listen today. If you liked what you heard, will you leave me a review on Apple Podcasts so that this show can reach more people? And if you want to connect with me, go to herholistichealing.com. Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls.
For you, it's easy and my burden is light.